I promise you that we are going to talk about this chart today, this Cardano chart. And we are going to talk about why the Cardano chart is going to break out. But that's not what the show's about. But we are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about something else today because it was like a very boring day on the markets. And if you look at the markets are flat. You've got the US 30 down 0.5%. You've got boring day on the markets, flat down the markets. But then something happened. Something happened specifically in crypto. Didn't affect the normal markets, which may be good for crypto and Bitcoin this week. And that something that happened was this. So we're going to talk about this because this is what we're going to be talking about. And to talk about this, we've got none other than Papa Tentino. Papa Tentino, welcome back, bro.
Yo, brother. I think it's been a long time since I've been on your show, actually.
I know. I'm very excited to have you on the show and to talk charts and just to catch up, especially because today is your 1 year at Crypto Banter. It's your 1 year anniversary at Crypto Banter.
Can you even believe it? I sat this morning and I was absolutely shocked. Where things were a year ago to where it is now, brother. It's been an unbelievable journey.
Well, let me tell you something. I want to say something that all our lives are better for what happened over this last year. All our lives. When I say all our lives, I mean mine, yours, Fred's, Carl's, and every single member of the Banter family is much richer because you've been around for the last year. And I think you've had an amazing growth journey.
It's been phenomenal, brother. Thank you, brother. It means a lot, dude. To the next one.
Let's do this. Let's get into the show.
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch. Go. Get up, and then they got go. Time to wake up, bitch. Get up. Get up. Get up.
We were on time today. We were on time today. We were actually on time today. We were on time today. Even though there was news breaking while we were preparing for the show, there was news breaking. We were on time today for the first time ever. I don't know. Hold on. Freddie, is this our first time ever that we were on time?
I think this is the first time this year we've been on time. That's for sure.
Can we just get this time thing sorted? Because I thought we start the show at 10 a.m. EST, isn't it? 10 a.m. EST?
It's 4:15. Let's be realistic. It's 4:15.
Okay, so 4:15.
Let's take a moment to
10:15 EST.
10:15 a.m. EST.
Okay, but then it must be 10:15 a.m. EST.
Except for when Anthony Scaramucci, Michael Saylor, and Mark Yusko are on one show, we'll start earlier than that.
Yeah, I must say, you're an absolute legend. Guys, I don't know if you heard this, but this Friday on Banter, we're going to be talking to Scaramucci. We're going to be talking to Mark Yusko and we've got Michael Saylor on. Is that not going to be one of the biggest shows of the year? I just don't know what I'm going to talk to them about because they're all like Bitcoin people. Like, how can you talk about Bitcoin for like 45 minutes?
We talked to Michael Saylor about the Bitcoin Reserves UST mechanism. I'd love
definitely going to talk to them about that. Yeah, but I mean, what else am I going to talk to them about for 45 minutes? I just like, what do you talk for 45 minutes to Michael Saylor, Mark Yusko, and Scaramucci about Bitcoin? I don't know. Anyway, if you're new to our channel, welcome. Subscribe to our channel, especially today. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button because today the YouTube algorithm is broken. It's broken. All the live streams have been delayed. There's been non-stop issues. So you need to like this content. That's how we're going to tell the world that we're actually broadcasting. And there's quite a lot to talk about today. It started off as quite a boring day on the markets, but then we had this little breakout here. I know Sheldon wants to talk about this little breakout here. And then we had another little event happening in crypto. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And then we have Gareth Soloway coming onto the show. Guess what? Dude's fucking bearish again. Short-term bearish again. I don't know. We'll talk to him about that. All right, let's look at the markets. Let's see what happened today and what I'm talking about. So, as I said to you, it started off as quite a boring day on the markets. And you see that the markets are kind of down. The NASDAQ down, the S&P down, European stocks kind of flat to down. That's pretty much what was happening in the day. And Bitcoin was also, if you look at Bitcoin was also kind of flat to down. We gave up a lot of the gains that we made yesterday. And we went back down to 42,000, 41,800. We struggled to hold 42,000. But then something happened. While we were preparing for the show, something happened while we were preparing for the show. And what happened was this transaction over here. So we had this transaction. And if you look at this transaction, you see that 125 million US dollars was moved from one wallet to another wallet. So whose wallet is this? Well, the wallet that it was moved from was the Terra Foundation's wallet, the Terra Foundation's wallet. And they moved $125 million. Let me make this bigger because a lot of you are saying you can't read it. They moved $125 million into their Binance account. So what you can see is that a few days ago, before we got that massive pump, they moved $40 as a test transaction into Binance. And then they moved $125 million and then they executed that buy. And that buy was the buy that took Bitcoin up to here. So you see that buy that gave us that huge wick. Sorry, it was this wick over here. That's what happened the last time that they bought. And now they just did another test transaction. As you can see, they sent $41.9 for some reason, maybe a test transaction. And then 30 minutes ago, or a bit longer now, let's just refresh this. It's about an hour ago now, or an hour and a half ago. They sent another 120, it's an hour and 36 minutes ago. They sent $125 million to Binance. Now, the interesting thing is that if you look at the balance on the account, they still have $1.125 billion in this account. It's the beauty of the blockchain. You can actually see, they said they were going to buy $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. They have already transferred $300 million out of this account into Binance, and there is now $1.125 billion left in the account. And the speculation was, or is, that they're going to use this to start buying Bitcoin again. Now, I mean, these guys know blockchain, and because these guys know blockchain, they're not going to leave the amounts lying around in exchanges. So if they moved $125 million to an exchange, they moved $125 million to an exchange because they're going to start buying. So I'm expecting Do Kwon or the Terra Foundation or someone to come out and say that they've bought $125 million worth of Bitcoin. And I think that these buys are going to continue. So you now have Do Kwon becoming like the Michael Saylor. I just wish that what Do Kwon would do was that he would start with those tweets, like the Michael Saylor tweet saying, like the Terra Foundation has now bought and has this many Bitcoin. I wish that he would do the same so we could start keeping tabs on his Bitcoin. So that is the news that's driving Bitcoin. But I don't know if this is enough to get the Bitcoin price up this week. And if I look at what the rest of the week looks like, we're in Wednesday today. And we're in Wednesday today. And we have the March options expiry on Friday. Now, this is no ordinary month-end options expiry. This is a bigger options expiry because this is a quarterly options expiry. And, a lot of funds are measured in quarters, and a lot of funds are trading options and closing them out every single quarter so they can report their Q1 numbers and their Q2 numbers and their Q3 numbers and their Q4 numbers. So this is one of the biggest options expiries that we've ever had. And this week, or this month, or this options expiry, the point of max pain sits at $41,000. So that's one thing that we need to look out for. Right now, we're at about 42,500. But the max pain price for Friday's options closeout, well, it is $41,000. So I don't know. We need to keep a close eye on that. And maybe let's bring Sheldino in just to see what he says about the Bitcoin chart before Friday. Tentino, what do you think? Bro, did your new daughter draw that chart?
Dude, I'm teaching her. Baby Sniper is learning. She's learning trend line. She's watching the masterclasses. She's on it, brother. We're learning.
All right, show me, what is the Bitcoin chart? What is the Bitcoin chart showing you? Because We have this big options closeout on Friday, the point of max paying $41,000 exactly. The put call ratio, so slightly higher puts to calls, so 0.58. What is the chart saying about this?
So what's interesting is obviously we have a support at 41K. So it's sitting in the region of between 40 and 41K is support. So it would make sense if we do go there. But for now, yesterday's candle was really strong for me. We had such a big engulfing candle here that it raised the 2 days down on the weekend. And for me, that was really good. So you were saying possibly was it the Do Kwon, that 125 mil or 150, whatever it was, that made a massive difference. So I'm still things are pointing to the upside at the moment for me. But there is a support at 41K. But for now, I'm seeing us going to the 44, 45K for the remainder of the week. For now, that's what the charts are showing me.
All right, let's see what happens there. Let's quickly talk. Well, in a few seconds, I'm going to get you back here and we're going to talk about Cardano, because I know that's why you came back to the office today, because you wanted to talk about the Cardano chart. And we'll do that. I promise you, we'll do that. But first, let's just look at the rest of the market. So when we look at the broader markets, we see that the S&P is now, let's quickly get a ruler here. Let's just quickly measure this. So this is the all-time high, which was on the 14th of Jan. And now let us quickly go and look at where we're at. Okay, so the S&P is now only down 6.2% from the all-time high. And if you look at where the lows were about 14.85%. So the S&P's had a hell of a recovery, and it's only now 6% below the all-time high. The NASDAQ paints a slightly different picture. So the NASDAQ, which Bitcoin is more correlated to, is right now about 12.5%. from its all-time high. So the S&P down 6 and the NASDAQ down 12%. What does this mean? What does this 6% mean? On the one hand, it's good. It means that the markets are recovering. But maybe a good market isn't such a good thing for us. And the reason why I say maybe a good market is maybe not such a good thing for us, because a good market, a market that's recovering, has given or can give the Fed a license to act and to maybe be more aggressive. And that's the problem right now. That is why markets are starting to get a little bit subdued after such a good week. They had a good recovery, they had a bit of a bounce, but we now have given the Fed a license to be more aggressive in the interest rate hikes. And what we're seeing here is that Goldman is saying that the best guess is that the shift in wording from steadily in Jan to expeditiously today is a signal that a 50 basis point rate hike may be coming. So what Goldman Sachs is forecasting is pretty much that the Fed is going to be much more aggressive in the interest rate increases. The market is now really pricing that in. So what the market is pricing in, believe it or not, is they are pricing 9 interest rate hikes this year. So they're saying that the interest rate target for the 14th of December, which is the last Fed meeting of the year, the highest probability is that we're going to have a 2.5% interest rate by the end of Feb. And so the market's pricing in 9 interest rate hikes this year. Gareth, who's coming on later today, says this is not going to happen. He says it's a fantasy. Anything more than 4 interest rate hikes in 2022 puts us into recession. So he's saying that the Fed isn't going to be that aggressive. He's saying that the Fed is going to be less aggressive and that we're only going to be able to price in 4 interest rate hikes and not 9 interest rate hikes, which, by the way, is what Raoul Paul said when Raoul Paul came on the show a week or two ago on Banter. He said there's no chance that the Fed is going to be able to increase interest rates more than 3 or 4 times. They're living in a bit of a pipe dream. They are also living in a world where you've got COVID in China rapidly spreading. Now, I don't think that the rest of the world is going to go into lockdown, but China's certainly gone into lockdowns. And if China goes into lockdown, that could mean more supply chain disruptions. That's what that could mean. More supply chain disruptions, more inflation, more expensive goods, harder to get things, more expensive goods. And so this week, when we look at this week, the current sentiment is very much a risk-off sentiment. So if you look at where the current sentiment is, it's very much a risk-off sentiment. But maybe this is where the opportunity is. If everybody is currently risk-off and taking their foot off the brake, maybe this does bring us a little bit of a buying opportunity if you believe the market's going to go up. The Ukrainian president, or the Ukrainian presidential advisor, he's saying that that he sees the war or the active phase of the war ending before April. And Chamath Palihapitiya, he said that he sees the war ending within 2 weeks. So this is what we're balancing against here. If you listen to Chamath, he's actually forecasting what he calls, let me not ruin it. He calls it a melt up. Listen to this.
But a recession possibly looming. Where are you on this? And obviously the market's bottomed out. So where are you at with the economy? Hope, fear, and otherwise?
Well, I think that we're in the midst of what I would call a melt up. So, probably the next month and a half, there really isn't much quote unquote bad news that hasn't been priced in. The thing that I've learned over the last few years is that markets don't actually care what the news is. They can process good news and bad news equally well. What they despise is the uncertainty of what the news could be. And so this week was really important because we had two huge buckets of uncertainty taken out of the market. So the one we've already talked about, which is when the market saw that there was a surface area of a deal between Ukraine and Russia that was really constructive, because neither side would have signaled something if both parties were very far apart. So that meant to the markets, we're a few weeks out from something getting done. And then the second thing was Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve. They finally had their meeting. They raised rates 25 basis points. But even more importantly, they gave you a very prescriptive forecast of what the next year will look like at a minimum, and possibly even 2 years. And once you could have that, you were able to then go and redo all of your expectations. And what people realized was, okay, inflation may actually start to get tamed in the back half of the year. The economy is still quite strong. And we could actually support 2.5% interest rates and still actually grow really well. And so what you've seen in the last 3 or 4 days is a reaction to the loss of uncertainty. And so there really isn't, the only thing, the fly in the ointment could be if the war all of a sudden escalates. Not that it gets dragged on, because at that point, that's also, I think, been priced in. But if something very meaningfully different and Russia, in this case, ratchets up the intensity by going, nuclear or something else, although I think that's a very long tail.
Chemical weapons seems a possibility, or carpet bombing.
I think these are all very, very low probability events. But in the absence of these things, you basically have really constructive dynamics right now for at least the next month and a half, maybe even 2 months.
How much of this has...
Okay, so there we go. So Chamath's calling for a melt-up for the next month and a half or 2 months. And that was about 3-4 days ago. So take it in the context of when it happened. So that's pretty much what happened. A lot of it depends on what Powell does in the next meeting. I think the market's already pricing in a 0.5% interest rate hike. And I don't think that Powell could shock us in. He did speak this morning, actually. He spoke at this BIS summit. And I must say, we got some really interesting stuff out of him today. I mean, the first thing is that he's starting to really acknowledge the digital innovation in the finance sector, and specifically around blockchain. He says that there are going to be new rules and laws and frameworks to deal with digital currencies. Now, the reason why I found this so interesting is because when you listen to Gary Gensler talking, Gary Gensler always says that there are rules in place and that the rules don't need to change because the asset class is slightly different. And this is the first time that someone's coming out and saying, look, we're actually going to need new rules. And that's what Biden's executive order is about. And if you remember Biden's executive order, Biden's executive order didn't go to the SEC. It didn't go to Gary Gensler. It went to everyone else except Gary Gensler. And he also says that we're actively examining costs and benefits of the central bank digital currency. We have yet to make a decision on a central bank digital currency. I thought that a central bank digital currency was pretty much a done deal. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about altcoins, because I think that's why you guys are here. You guys are degens. Smash up a like. I can see there's not enough likes. Smash up the like. Let's get people watching this today. I know YouTube's having a lot of issues today. Let's talk about altcoins. The first altcoin that we should talk about is Avalanche, because they are in the middle of their summit. And I must say, guess I'm kind of disappointed by Avalanche. I guess I'm kind of disappointed by all the news coming out in the summit. There's really been like nothing coming out of the Avalanche summit, like nothing coming out of it. I've heard two things and I've seen one thing coming out of the Avalanche summit. The first thing is they said yesterday that they're going to launch their own wallet application called Core. So that was one of the things that came out of it. The other thing is that they were going to add a Bitcoin bridging functionality, which would probably allow more people to bring Bitcoin onto the Avalanche network. And then, I guess that's pretty much all that I heard coming out of the summit. Then I saw this on Anchor Protocol. Now, we knew it was coming, but it's pretty cool to actually see it happening. Now on Anchor Protocol, you can actually borrow against your AVAX. So we know that UST and Anchor Protocol have now moved across to Avalanche 2. And now you can actually stake your AVAX. You can take your staked AVAX and you can bond them. In other words, you can pledge them and you can borrow against them on Anchor Protocol. So that, I guess, is something. But I don't know. I think I kind of expected a whole lot more from this huge summit. I really did. I expected a whole lot more. We also had another hack. This time it's Cashio app. Cashio app on Solana got hacked. It's very technical, but what the hacker found a way to do was to mint a whole lot more Cashios. And I think if the numbers are correct, it's a $50 million exploit. So it's very technical about how it happened. I don't think we need to get into the thing. It's something around how the contracts were written, but it allowed the hacker to create more cash, and he did. He minted new cash, and he managed to cash out $50 million. So that's another hack on the market. What else when it comes to altcoins? Let's have a look here. The ETH narrative is heating up. Yesterday, I went on to Kitco News. The interview hasn't yet been published. I will publish it for you guys, and I'll drop it on my Twitter. And when we do that, you guys must go and smash it up so that Kitco say, wow, the Banter community is like the best community in the whole world. We'll leave it in the description when it actually does get launched. It's not launched yet, so you won't find it yet. But I did talk about how I think that ETH is actually the trade of the century, which is what I spoke about or trade of the next couple of months, not the century. And I spoke about that yesterday. I spoke about it yesterday on our show, and then I spoke about it on Kitco News. And it does look, if you look at Three Arrows Capital, they have now deposited another 43,393 ETH into Curve's ETH, ST ETH pool in the past 9 hours. So Three Arrows Capital is highly bullish on ETH, depositing it into this pool. The yield that they're getting on this pool, I mean, it's tiny. I think I looked at it earlier, and I think the yield that they were getting into this here, ETH and ST, they're getting 2% yield. They're getting a 2% yield, but I guess it's not locked up. It's a freely available ETH. All right, before we talk about Cardano, one more bit of altcoin news, and that is Yugo Labs. Let's quickly find this. So Yugo Labs, which is the mother company of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, or the creator of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, they raised $450 million in funding. They raised it from some of the biggest names out there. They raised it from people like, the lead investor was Andreessen Horowitz, but there were a whole lot of other investors like Coinbase Ventures. I think there was a list of investors here. It was a very big, well-known list of investors raising $450 million on a valuation of $4.5 billion. And they've got very, very, very ambitious plans. They want to build a metaverse. They want to build a metaverse. They're building some games. They are buying more licenses. They've really got this big plan. And a lot of people are saying, look, $4 billion is a huge valuation for this. But I don't think so. I mean, if you think about Yugo Labs as potentially the next Disney, or the new age Disney, or the Disney of the new metaverse world, then a valuation of $4 billion, raising on a valuation of $4 billion is not much. It's not much. I think not much. All right, before Gareth comes on, because Gareth's coming on in about 5 or 6 minutes, let's get Sheldino on. Let's talk about Cardano.
What's up, brother? What's even happening there? Is there any massive news happening? Because all of a sudden, we literally caught the buy like perfect yesterday of that break, and this is a 7-month downwards trend on Cardano. So finally, it has been down for the last 7 months and trailing down. Don't forget what it did before that, where we had this long few. We had up to, I think, a year of rallying up from Cardano, and what happened was we had this strong rally start with side, which usually took it, I think, from literally, I think it was 10 cents all the way to the region of $3, and then we came all the way back to $1, which is a full wave to the golden zone of 618. And now what we're doing is we were then for the last 7 months in this long downwards trend, and now we have finally broken this downwards trend. So what automatically happened there was we started to get volume that came in. So obviously something behind doors is starting to happen with Cardano, and then we started to get Bitcoin start to absolutely rampage back into Cardano as well. So now we've got the Bitcoin chart pumping in with it, and now we can see why it's starting to take off so strong. So Cardano is looking like it's finally on that point of it's out of that long time cycle, which means it's going to change its sort of behavior on what it's been for the last few months. And just having a look at the golden zone to the upside is sitting back to the regions of $2 to 2.6. So which can take some time, but at least it's finally out of that long downward cycle. It's about time, brother. It's been 7 months. What's happening? What's the bees telling you? What's the bird telling you? I want to know.
I'm going to ping Charles later today and get Charles back on the show. But for the life of me, I can't work out what it is that would get Cardano running like this. And I'll tell you, because I've looked everywhere and I can't find any data on Cardano. We know the JED, which is a stable coin, which is built by Coty. We know that they're on testnet. Okay, so that's not enough to move the Cardano thing. Then we've got this Grayscale smart contract platform, the one without Ethereum. Okay, maybe this is it. And specifically the fact that Cardano has the highest weighting in that group. So Cardano's got 24.63%. Now, I don't know, I haven't read this, and I don't know why they've given Cardano such a big ranking. But it's not because Cardano is doing that many transactions or stuff like that. Okay, then I go look at the transactions on Cardano. And, okay, there was a spike a day or two ago, and then there's no more spikes anymore. Like, the transaction volume is pretty much stagnant, not much going on in terms of transaction volume. Then I went to DeFi Llama, and I looked at DeFi Llama. And if I look at Cardano, one thing that kind of shocks me, but maybe doesn't shock me because they've only now recently launched smart contracts, and their DEXs are not working so well. But if you look at the total value locked on Cardano, number 24. Now, yes, okay, it is up in the last 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's up 153% in the last month, 54% in the last week. But it's still number 24. Like, I mean, Elrond, Ronan, Kava, Celo, Thought all have much more locked up than Cardano. I see James, just close James.
Jimmy. Where was it, Rand, when it was at $3? Where was the TVL sitting on Cardano then? Was it ever in the top 10? Was it sitting in those?
No, it would never be there because it doesn't have DEXs. It didn't have smart contract capabilities. So it's really like starting from.
Someone's buying, brother. I don't know what's going on.
So this is
buying.
This is what I'm trying to understand. What is this? What's going to come? And people here are saying you're a Cardano hater. I'm definitely not a Cardano hater. In fact, I'm one of the people that has always stood up for Cardano. And I've said that, maybe their approach is actually a better approach because blockchain is very much a long-term game, not a short-term game, right? But I mean, I can't find the source of why this thing would be going up. So I'll make some calls tonight. I'll maybe give Charles a call and see what Charles says. But I mean, I don't know. I can't work out why Cardano is going. Which other charts are going? While we're waiting for Gareth, let's look at some other charts that are.
So we got three. Obviously, like my three most bullish ones, I would say more on the major alt side. When it comes to Bitcoin, is obviously the ETH to Bitcoin. That was a big one because we started breaking some big structure and it's showing a lot of strength. So Ethereum showing a good amount of strength. Cardano as well. And then I love the token, but Solana's finally breaking the very long-term downtrend. Like 2 Bitcoin, 2 USD, to all of that. So Solana is showing a very similar concept to, or similar chart to Cardano as well. So I've been adding quite a bit of Solana now as well, and I think Solana is a great one. I think it's getting ready to shoot out the gates. It's showing a very similar chart. And when we usually get these very long-term breaks on the daily trends is when we start to get massive push of volume. You can see how long this trend is from Solana on the way down. We're looking at a 5-6 month trend downwards. So I think Solana's the next one, brother. And you were saying something about AVAX. Obviously, the news is not so great because it's breaking, but it's not like, it's not really showing incredible amounts of strength. So obviously what's going on there is not really blowing people's mind. So I'm also quite disappointed in AVAX at this point. I see DOT as well is breaking all the.
You know why AVAX is a buy the rumor, sell the news. It is their conference now, right? It's the AVAX conference now. And so we expected big news, but we kind of, these conferences always disappoint. The Phantom conference disappointed, the Solana conference disappointed. That's just what it is, kind of thing. That's just pretty much what it is. Sheldon, if I were to ask you, where would you put your money, or which one's going to hit $250 first? Solana, AVAX, or Luna? Which one hits $250 first?
Solana.
It hits $250 before Luna and before AVAX.
Dude, you can't even compare between Luna and Solana. Luna's been in an uptrend for the last 4 months, 5 months. Solana's only just broken the downtrend and it's still sitting close to $100. So if it comes to gain wise and to where we're sitting, even AVAX, it's held up so much more. I'm saying Solana.
Solana.
Definitely Solana. Definitely.
All right, brother, man, go home and be a daddy.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it,
actually,
bro.
Actually, why not stay on with us? We're here with Gareth. Hold on a sec. Let me get Gareth in.
I'm here.
Gareth, welcome, man.
Hey, Rand, how's it going?
What's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going, man? We had to get you back on today. We had to get you back on today because the Fed, everyone is pricing in 8 to 9 interest rate hikes. And as usual, Gareth, the contrarian, came back on and said, the Fed is dreaming if they think they're going to be able to sneak in more than 4 interest rate hikes this year. Walk me through your thinking there.
Well, it's just the common sense of knowing that in history, every time the Fed raises rates, it slows the economy, right? And then you add in $115 oil right now. That's slowing the economy. The market shows that it sells off when the Fed raises rates, which is going to slow the economy. So if you add all these things up, I mean, they're talking a great game because they have to. But I mean, if they raise 8 times this year, we're going to have a depression. You know what I'm saying? I don't see how it's possible.
All right, so what's your short-term outlook now, Gareth? If you look at the markets now, you got the S&P staged a great recovery. We are now, if I look at it, we're 6% down from the all-time highs. We're above the lows. The lows were down about 15%. Where are you looking now? And remember, I can't talk to you unless I see a chart. I feel uneasy.
I know. I feel naked without showing the charts.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm looking at you naked when I don't see a chart, which is...
And no one really wants to see me anyways. They want to see the charts. I understand. All right, so here's the S&P 500, right? So basically what you have is a market. This was your market on steroids, right, with the COVID stimulus, and it was going great. And then the Fed said, hey, we're going to put on the brakes here. So we broke that upsloping trend. And then I think, again, that we're probably coming back down into this longer trend growth area, right? So if we zoom out, this was your longer trend growth range. And it makes a lot of sense, right, that we're going to come back to that level. And that's assuming no recession, by the way. That's just going back to your long-term growth range. If the Fed does raise too much and create a recession, then we could trade lower than that. But I think it makes a lot of sense that, I mean, if you look at the midpoint of this level, right, where is that? It's right before COVID hit. The market dumped on COVID. That could be your target for this year. I could see that being a beautiful target on the S&P 500.
So you're bearish.
What is that? Is that like a 30%?
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
That would basically be undoing the rally that we saw from COVID. Yeah. So, I mean, again, it would be crazy. I mean, to imagine, if the market's down 30%, do we really think the Fed's going to raise 8 times this year? I mean, let's just say they're at 4. I mean, they're going to raise 4 more. It's hard to imagine. And by the way, that's if they do stop raising, that's very bullish for crypto at that point. That would be my turning point. And I would then say, okay, if the Fed has stopped tightening and maybe they're going back to a looser money policy, then that could be where Bitcoin really starts to make its bigger move up later in the year.
All right, what is your short-term outlook on Bitcoin? And show me why.
All right, let's do that here. So Bitcoin.
Let me guess. We've had a run, and now you're calling it slightly back down.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, Bitcoin's done almost nothing now since January, right? I mean, that's the essence of it. Is it's just chopping sideways. But I mean, again, the bigger pattern to me is this down move, and then basically the sideways consolidation, and I'm very concerned about that. You know, in fact, I just unloaded a little crypto this morning that I was holding. I still have some Bitcoin, but I'm getting a little nervous. Why haven't we broken up? One of the things that concerns me is the NASDAQ has just gone on this massive run over the last week, and Bitcoin's kind of just sputtering here. And usually when the
wait. No. I mean, if you look at the NASDAQ, if you look at Bitcoin has actually been leading the NASDAQ pretty much the whole year. If you look at when Bitcoin hit its all-time high, and you look at when the NASDAQ hit its all-time high, the Bitcoin hit its all-time high about 2 weeks before the NASDAQ hit the all-time high. You look at the low, the NASDAQ is up. I mean, you can't really compare it, but I'm going to show you that you maybe can. And so let me quickly just share my screen, and my charts aren't as pretty as yours because I'm not a chartist. But if I look at the bottom of the NASDAQ to where we're at today, so let me just see, I'm not really a chartist, so I don't know how to use these fancy tools, but so you're up 12% off the lows on the NASDAQ. And if you look at the same chart on Bitcoin, and let's just get into a daily chart,
and you look at 30%, it's close to 30%.
Yeah, and you look at the lows. So let's compare time period with time period. So the NASDAQ lows 14th of March, and we're 12% up from the 14th of March. Let's go Bitcoin because we know that it goes slightly further back. Bitcoin was at 33,000, right?
Right.
And we're back up at 42,000. So, I mean, you could say that Bitcoin's just been leading the NASDAQ all along.
And you're right. You're right. Generally, Bitcoin does lead. If you go back to 2017, when Bitcoin topped out in that cycle, the NASDAQ didn't top out until kind of January, February of 2018. So it does lead. I'm more speaking about the correlation we've seen over the last few months. When the NASDAQ gets a kind of a buy, you almost immediately see an upswing in Bitcoin, right? There's a correlation there of risk on assets. And if you look at the vertical move just in the last few days on the NASDAQ, the QQQ, and I'll bring it up here. I mean, look at this vertical move here. And then if we go to the last 5 or 7 days on Bitcoin, it's kind of lagged. I mean, look at this, kind of like sputter. I mean, I would have expected to see Bitcoin like at the upper end of this channel trying to break out here, and it hasn't done that. Now, maybe it'll play catch up. Maybe, but that's just a little bit. I'm like, why is that happening? Why isn't Bitcoin ripping when the NASDAQ's been ripping here? And again,
why is that happening? Why is that happening?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. The only thing I can do is just look at the charts. And again, just one thing to keep in mind is that this pattern here, this big down move and this consolidation, that's known as in the industry as a bear flag. So the way it would get negated, if you could somehow get above here and start trading in this range, then it takes it off the table. Then I think you do have some upside. But as long as you stay in this sideways consolidation range, that concerns me a little bit. And again, I'm a long-term huge believer in Bitcoin. It's just these things are bothering me right now.
Would you say if there is, sorry, Ran, if there is a sort of pullback, are you just talking to the bottom of that sort of range, lower 30s again, or you're talking, serious sort of, for me, it sort of makes sense that Bitcoin should slow down. It can't just bounce and sort of recover. How do whales sort of accumulate at these times?
Yeah.
And what I saw in the March crash 2 years ago, 2020 March crash, was the NASDAQ was the first to rise up. Bitcoin only caught up 2 weeks later. And if you see on really big events, on when we had really strong pullbacks, Bitcoin was actually the lagging when it was really strong pullbacks in the market. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but your camera's gone. But we can.
Give me 2 secs.
But carry on,
cool. I'll go back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, my big thing is that I do worry that this bear flag is going to trade to the downside and take out this yellow upsloping trend line, in which case then you look to 29,000 and then potentially lower. But again, I'm one of those people that as a trader, I look at these possibilities. I say, okay, the probability of this happening is X amount. And then really, if it's going to happen, it has to take out the line. So you have 2 lines. You're basically trading in the midpoint of that area. So all we have to do as investors is just watch, right? So if it takes out up here, hugely bullish. If it takes out down here, hugely bearish. So again, I think that's the nice thing about charts. It gives us a very concise level to watch on both sides.
All right, so we're looking at 45, 46,000 on the upside, or break 35,000 on the downside. Otherwise, we're pretty much range bound. Gareth, take me to Bitcoin, to ETH BTC. Have you been watching the ETH BTC chart?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So the beauty of the ETH chart is, and I remember discussing this with some other individuals a while back, is that we were hovering right on this line. And if you're thinking about a trade, I love these scenarios, because basically if you were on this line like you were right here, you could buy ETH, and then you keep the stop at any daily close below that line, but you can just go long with a very, very minimal amount of risk. So when you're doing a trade, it's all about risk versus reward. And in this scenario, it was a beautiful play because you were buying it right on the trend line. And if it broke, you stop out for $100 loss. But ultimately, if it goes, you get this beautiful move up. So the ETH chart doesn't look bad. I think, again, what you're watching for on this, as long as it doesn't take out this orange line, you remain neutral to positive on it, but then just be aware of where you need to stop out if it comes down.
All righty. Gareth, thank you, brother, man. Are there any other charts that you're watching right now and going, these are critical to watch? I mean, I was looking at the commodities charts. I think I was looking at the oil charts earlier on, I was looking at the Goldman Sachs commodities chart, and that wasn't looking very good when I looked at it earlier. I don't have any fun.
I was going to say, are you going to make another big call on oil here? Oil's going back up. What's your call, Rand?
I don't think oil touches anywhere close to 150. Not at all. Not even.
I think lower high. I think lower high this time.
I think we've topped. I think we've topped on oil. If we haven't topped, we're not going much higher than we were. The tensions are finished. They're talking about an end of the war in sight. All sides are talking about an end of the war in sight. Russian presidential spokesman came out today. He said by the end of April. Russia came out as well. Ukrainian presidential spokesman said end of April. I don't know. It feels to me like, well, I guess the only truth is in the charts, right?
That's right. And then the charts usually signal that, right? So the charts would say it right now, a lower high is in. And so that would be a positive for a pullback in oil. You're right. All
right, brother, man. We'll see you soon.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much. Great to see you both.
Yes, brother.
All righty. And remember on Friday, check this.
Rand, what is this chart? Okay, sorry, continue.
Just look at this. Just look at this. Just look at this. Just look at this. I mean, it's beautiful. It's what our man Fred orchestrated.
Oh, this is monstrous.
Yeah.
Well done, Freddy. Nice, brother.
Well done, bro.
The last one took a few weeks to close, but we did it.
Freddie, did you buy the Audi Q7, the grandfather's car?
It's gonna beat your car, that's for sure, and you know it.
We gotta do that.
You know what, Banter fam, let us know in the comments whether you'd rather drive an amazing Jeep Wrangler with high suspension in black, or whether you'd rather drive the grandfather mobile, Audi Q7. Let us know in the comments whether you'd rather drive. No, you can't say M3. It's either the Jeep Wrangler black, higher suspensions, beautiful wheels, or the Audi Q7.
Yours kind of looks like a mini. Yours kind of looks like a minibus, except you only got the front half.
Fred, does the Audi come with 18 baby chairs in the back?
It probably does.
All right, so let us know in the comments whether you prefer the Audi cool car or the Q7 grandfather's on the way to the old age home car.
Brad, I want to ask you quickly. What is happening with this chart, bro? Why is Loopring up like 50%? Like it literally ripped in a matter of hours. Any idea? No idea.
No, wow. How much is it up? It's up how much?
So it's up now. Well, it's 40% so far today. It was up at close to 55%.
Sheldon,
tell me, Fred.
Can you put up the sand chart? Have a look at the sand chart.
Of course, brother.
Just give me a. This is just for me.
Are you gonna take me for a drive in your car?
Absolutely, brother.
There's no space. Too many baby chairs in the back.
Is that
so saying cup and handle, brother? Broke long-term day trend, which is good. It broke the really strong. I think it's actually breaking the major one. Let me actually get this line for you here. Oh, looking good. Major daily.
honor.
Oh, that's
All right.
beautiful, brother.
Guys, you always tell me short shows. Let's do short shows. You see, I've got the internet on my side. Love you guys madly. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends. In fact, let's see if our charting master, Sheldon. Now, guys, I told you about this charting master. He's not one of our regulars. He's not one of these big profile guys. He's not one of these guys that have got hundreds and thousands of followers. But this guy is accurate, and he applies a different approach to charting. We had lunch, we had dinner before the weekend, and you told me to buy VTHO, and I didn't listen to you. I said it's too much of a big cap for me, and it went up 77%. It went up 77% since you told me to.
It actually went 100% that day.
And you're not just going to show us one chart. You're kind of going to look at time frames and tell us what we should be buying over different time frames.
It's simple. We need to be buying the red, selling the green.
That's amazing. Listen, the chat's going mad. The guys are saying get Sheldon back here. So we'll get Sheldon back. Sheldon's 1 year anniversary here today. 1 year anniversary.
Ready for the show?
Ready for the show, fam.
Ready for the show. Yo, Banter fam. Obviously, big show today. I have revealed that I'm going to be a dad. Obviously, the timing, a year since my dad's passing. It's quite scary, but quite an amazing journey.
This is to our new studio.
To our new studio. Guys, well done.
Thank you, Banter fam, for all the support.
Thank you. We have this over here, which I think I'm very, very proud of, and I know Randy's super proud of as well. Crypto Banter, 10 months old, 400,000 subscribers. Guys, you know what?
What's happening today?
We're just planning on how we're going to take over the world.
Yeah. How we're going to make the biggest crypto business in the world.
In the world.
In the world. Very fast. Rather let him eat decent fish now because it's going to go too fast. Yo, Banter fam. The time has come. I had lost the bet to Ran over Solana and ETH by 1%.